Welcome to the Embodied Sounds podcast, where we explore how music and sound add to our collective well-being in mind, body, and spirit. In order to keep this podcast free of advertising, please consider joining our Patreon community. Your support will go towards the creation of this show, as well as original music compositions and recording projects to help us all reduce stress and live a healthier and happier life. Learn more at www.embodiedsounds.com. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Embodied Sounds podcast. My name is Joshua Sam Miller, and today I'm here with Kavita Kat Macmillan. She's a dear friend of mine, an amazing singer, vocalist, harmonium player, teacher, and just awesome human being. So we're so happy to have her on the podcast today and look forward to learning more about her life. Welcome, Kat.
Thank you. So great to be here with you. So great to see you.
What's happening in your world these days in regards to music? I'm curious how your music practice has supported you in challenging times. Has it been there for you? And if you feel called to share any stories about, how coming back to that practice has supported you.
Yeah, absolutely. All we have to do is do it, right? Sometimes the hardest thing is getting to doing it, right? We talk about it or we think about it and it works so flawlessly if we do it. And that's the message that comes back again and again, whether it's mantra or kirtan or for me, my classical practice, I study Indian classical with Warren Sanders, who's an amazing teacher and singer, and he's in Boston. And this, pandemic time, I got back, since I wasn't on the road, I was able to jump back into my, weekly or bi-weekly Skypes with him. And that's a practice that I don't necessarily turn around and present to the world, but it's the practice that completely clears my head and brings me to center. And so returning to that has been, as always, so rewarding and just such a learning experience, really, such a letting go of any ideas of I'm doing this for that, right? Because with that practice, I'm doing it to do it. And it works every time. It just does this complete transformation of whatever I've got going on that I think is more important, or the monkey mind or any of that, going into the purity of the sound current and having that meditation is like nothing else. So the more that I am reminded of that, the more I know that that's my truth, and the more that I can authentically, offer that when I teach.
Amazing. I resonate with so much of what you're sharing, and if you could put yourself in the shoes of someone who has never experienced that in their life, who's new to building that type of a practice into their life, what would you suggest as a starting place?
Yeah, I think Om is a really good starting place. I think finding your home note and your saw, your home pitch, and using the least amount of effort possible to hold long tones is just an incredible starting and ending and middle point. It's like there can never be too much of that. So I talk a lot with people about finding a drone, and luckily, we can do that online. We can do that on our phones. Because the drone has a way, with its constancy, with its infinity of sound, to just create this harmonic bed that we can lie in and that can accompany us and that can really help to open up just the musical expression, or the vocal expression, or whatever kind of way that you want to express yourself. It's gotta come out, right? And there's a lot of holding, and there's a lot of presumption around being good or not good and all of these ideas. And none of that matters if you can just sink into a tone, sink into like a long om or a long ah, and make that a practice. I think that's incredibly healing. So that's where I usually advise people to start and kind of guide people to find how to set that up for themselves.
Amazing. Would you feel called to share maybe something simple?
Sure.
With me?
Yeah, let's do that. You want to play around with finding your pitch?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to start playing this drone, and I'm playing a C and a G for those who are in music brain in the world and want to know that. I'm playing the fifth, the 1 and the 5, the sa and the pa, so that we can create, like a harmonic resonant space for you. And then what I want you to do, without thinking about how it sounds, concentrate more on how it feels, and relax your mouth and jaw. And you're going to use, instead of om, because that takes more muscles, you're going to use the sound ah. So I'll do an example. This isn't my home pitch, but it might be yours. Just letting the sound come out as if it's just riding on the breath. It's like you're sighing out the sound. So something like this. Want to try? Beautiful. So I'm going to say open your mouth wider. Relax your jaw. A lot of the way that we get in our own way is just by blocking sound, right? So just let the jaw drop. There you go.
Nice. That felt much better.
It was noticeable in your sound too. So one more, and just notice how it feels. And just notice the sensations.
Wow. Gosh, I can feel it in my gut, in my belly. In that last one, when I really dropped down, it was coming from a much deeper place.
Nice. Well, so that's the idea. That's where we start. And then, with more time, we would go up a half step, down a half step, and you would just feel the sensations. And then, when you hit it, it's the place where the least amount of effort is being exerted. A lot of times people experience emotion because it's kind of like a vulnerable place. That's great, right? We want, when we sing, to have access to that emotion, not in our head, but in just the natural sense, and we don't want the emotion to get in the way of holding a note back or a sound, right? So it's all this process of kind of finding where your particular voice is the most comfortable, the most embodied. It's perfectly in line with the name of your podcast.
Wow, that felt incredible to do. I just want to take more lessons and just do more of that. It was wonderful. It's hard to describe. It just felt so good.
Nice. Yeah, it's so simple and it's so healing.
It's such a mystery how all of this works. And is it okay not to understand everything? Is there something there that is perhaps mystical or useful to not try and know exactly what's going on?
I'd say that's a matter of opinion, For me, the mystery really helped to set me free and to help me to understand trust and faith. It's the mystery is really important for me personally. So there's all these things that we can learn, but what you just did is experiential. You can talk about it, and you can go on and on. You can read books about it. You can, but when you do it, just like when you sit to practice, there's an experience that, whether you put it into words or not, you can't put your finger on what that shift is. It's ineffable, and it happens. And for me, that's beautiful and mysterious, and I embrace that. I embrace that mysterious side. And I see that there's definitely a place for, study and investigating, and it just depends on, what your bent is, Do you want to understand the philosophy? Do you want to understand the pronunciation of the mantra? I mean, I think all those things are super important. And but first, I think as Westerners, we need to just get out of our head and experience sound, experience breath, experience movement from just that level of beginning. And then, because we tend to start with the head, and then we're disconnected from everything because we think we already know what we haven't even experienced yet. So, yeah.
That's such a good point. The whole experiential process of doing first and then debriefing later around what happened is such a powerful way to learn something new, that I completely agree with you in saying most of us do it in the opposite way, where we want to know what we're going to learn before we've experienced it. And it sometimes works, but sometimes it gets in the way. And I feel like music has been an even deeper teacher to me to just do it and maybe not understand for years what happened or the power of that experience. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I want to say one note that I think is very cool is that you're coming at it from, similar to me, having Western musical background and then going into music that, that has roots in Hindustani or in Indian music, where it's not about how it's written, because it's not written at all, right? It's not about talking about it. It's about doing it. It's about listen and do, listen, do, listen, do. So it kind of putting those two things side by side, it traces the path that at least I've taken into, doing music of spirit, which I feel I'm inspired by now, because it took it's not that there isn't knowledge there. It's not that there isn't all of this information that you can find, but it's about simplifying and just doing and going with that and trusting and letting go that you're going to fail 500 times and your teacher is going to keep repeating till you get it right. And that sort of patience with my own self and love that I feel I would receive from my teachers and do receive from my teachers is something that I wasn't used to, because I was thinking, but I need to know and I need to get it right, if not the first time, the second time. And, this is yoga, you're tapping into something that you're going to practice maybe your whole life. It's not about getting it right. Right?
Namaste. So true. You mentioned the balance of listening, or the relationship that listening plays in to this process of learning and of being. Has being a musician helped you as a listener in life, and has it kind of affected you in other parts of your life separate from when you're on stage or in a workshop? Have you gained a deeper sense of listening ability from your music practice?
Yeah, I think I realized I wasn't listening much. and I started to learn how to listen. Especially my Hindustani music practice, every time I would start to hear more. In the beginning, you're not even hearing where the pitch is supposed to be. And, little by little, like with harmonics, the hearing opens, and in opening that way and listening so keenly, I started to realize that I wasn't listening in a lot of other ways in my life. And I think it's affected everything. Yeah. It's been a real good lesson in saying less and, really allowing, even in, relationship and conversation, allowing that spaciousness for someone to express. It's, I'm working on that all the time, but it's been definitely something that's affected my relationships. Yeah.
Totally. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. I feel that in many conversations, silence is a challenge to experience when in relationship, whether it's between friends, family members, lovers, professional colleagues, creative partners. How do you work with silence as a sound and as a way of life that is not intimidating? Was it ever a challenge for you to be silent? And how did you start to shift that?
Early on, I was exposed to Vipassana and did a 10-day silent retreat early on. Well, I don't know. I was in my 30s, so when I was living in New York City, I went to Massachusetts and was introduced to that practice. And I remember thinking, looking out the window, day 1 or 2, like, what have I done? What have I done to myself? Like, why am I here? As if it was like some sort of punishment or something that I'd chosen, And that was such an incredible experience, and it's such a incredible practice that still gives to me. And what I discovered from the first 10-day silent meditation retreat was that everything was had so much more clarity after. My voice was like a bell when I sang. The colors were just brilliant and bright and vivid. It was in the winter when I did that, so it was snow and everything was white outside. And I remember returning to the city, and the flowers at the bodegas were like, ah! But it gave me this taste of, without that balance, we're missing a lot, because we have so much all the time. So that was kind of my first lesson in, the silence. The silence is really, really important. Now, what I think is ironic is that sound helps me to get to silence, because I still will have a lot going on all the time, and a chant or a mantra or even a long tone, just like we were doing, held for, even a few minutes, opens up this space where the mind can still, and I can be silent. And I was just reading How Can I Help, the book. It's by Ram Dass and Paul Gorman, yesterday, and it was speaking to this exact point, that once we have that silence, we can listen better. And once we listen better, we can actually be of service, right? We can actually start to close the distance between one another and, be there in presence. So it's a practice, I've always got this little I want to say something. And I recognize that, and I try to just maybe right now, just be. So, yeah.
There's a lot of wisdom there to take that moment and ask, does this really need to be shared right now? Is that going to be helpful to the moment? And I don't know about you, but gosh, that's so hard to do sometimes. isn't it?
Yeah. I think music helps a lot when you're, jamming with a bunch of really good musicians. For me, what I learned from the best of them that can drop in anywhere is how selective and particular they are about when they drop in and what they do, and that less really becomes more.
Totally. I resonate with that as an artist and musician, and have sat in many jam sessions. There's, especially as a percussionist, I can own the fact that we can be quite loud and perhaps take over the space for other instrumentalists and vocalists to have a chance to say something. So I've definitely tried to minimize that in my jamming, and I'm grateful for the practice to teach me the importance of leaving space for others.
Fantastic. Well, in tabla, even that's like the hardest hat to wear, because how do you perfectly support and be there but not call attention? And you're playing this amazing instrument, and so it's like, of course I want to call attention, but like, oof, it's so good when it's just like totally supporting, and then there's a solo and you're like, oh wow, there it is.
Let's talk about that for a moment. Like the concept of a solo. I mean, I see it as a very kind of big metaphor in terms of this conversation of listening and leaving space, because yes, as a tabla player, it's nice to have a tabla solo. That is fantastic. And to be able to have that space defined as the time to release everything that wants to come through. And when you nail it, it feels amazing. And it also feels amazing to have supported the rest of the concert, not being the soloist, not being the center of attention. And that has taught me so much about when it is my space to shine, let's say, and when it's my space to support. And in reference to kind of our world that we live in, I see so many people, and I know myself, have struggled kind of understanding when it's the time for each, experience. I'm curious if you have a similar experience or if any of that resonates.
Well, I know that as someone who offers and leads Kirtan, having a supportive percussionist is like the seed of the entire garden. So much rides on that and rests on that. And having a drummer who's not gonna, as a woman, as a female singer, having a drummer who's not gonna overplay for the strength of my voice, it's like just integral. It's so key. And so a couple things. Enthusiasm doesn't always mean we have to be louder or more noticeable, I think it's about the connectedness. It's just a different way of coming at being in the world. It's less about the individual, and it's more about how do we collectively show everybody off by being our best piece in that puzzle. And that includes when it's your turn to do your thing, and then, merge seamlessly back into the wave and allow for that whole picture to be perceived as one, one big wash of colors and sounds, and not, individuals that are fighting for their space.
Beautiful. Yes, it's important to claim the space, I have found too, when it is your turn. And
absolutely.
There have been many moments where I haven't done that. Maybe there was fear or intimidation or, a bit of stage fright in a concert, and And also in life, it's sometimes challenging to claim your space.
Well, and it's part of like giving each other permission too, because we don't want to err on the side of, no, you go. Well, like, because then the balance is off in a different way. It's tricky.
This is just fascinating to me. I feel this is a healthy conversation in masculine feminine dynamics. I appreciate you mentioned that. As a female vocalist, I definitely want to be supportive as a male percussionist, and I feel that there's been a lot of learning there, and I've seen a lot of guys in particular on the handpan especially. We get so excited and the enthusiasm just wants to be released, but it's kind of forgetting about what's happening around us. And when I've caught myself doing that at times, it's like, okay, nah, not the place for it. And thank you for the teaching.
Yeah, and we all do. I mean, I totally have lost myself in my enthusiasm and like gone off and sang songs that like I didn't even yet teach the band, and I've had to apologize and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I just we get carried away, and that's part of it too. It's we're not perfect, but I think the more that we can make it about connecting authentically, and that we can find the balance in that, in sharing music, and then also just all the time, right? Giving space to the voices that need to be heard more.
And I have found there's something so potent about this genre of music that really transcends the ego and allows for this community connection to arise. It's about creating that shared experience in a safe container for everyone to rise. And it is not about the lead singer or the drum solo or any of that. It's to create that sanctuary space for everyone to be lifted. And I just have so enjoyed being a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a divine feedback loop. It's, because the more that the room is singing, the more the chant is taking off on its own, the more the whole band can ride that, the more I can let go. And then we all come out of the experience transformed. We go on a journey together through the night of chanting, and we come out the other end and we're all changed. Not just a performer who's giving out and people who are just like, kind of passively receiving or even dancing and stuff. But it's like, no, we're asking you to participate. We're asking you to come into this with whatever you have to bring. It's all okay. Yeah. And that's a great invitation. We're not asked in that way very often, I mean, at least I ask people, I say, do it, like sing out, sing on the call, harmonize, like be happy here or be sad, be whatever you have to be to have your fullest experience tonight. For some people that's listening, but for me, when there are a certain number of people that are feeling free enough to sing in the room, there's some magic that happens when we join voices.
100%. Yeah. I have always appreciated your very forthcoming invitation to participate, whether it be inviting me to play with you in your home on your birthday.
Yeah, I was like, come on, let's play right now.
Let's play right now. That enthusiasm to just sit down and play, I've always appreciated it, whether we're in your living room or on a stage. And I look forward to when we can do that again.
Me too.
How are you feeling now? Do you want to play something?
Sure. Yeah. I can share something. You have a favorite deity or chant?
I've been really channeling Saraswati lately in setting up this new studio space and wanting to foster creativity.
Okay. Let's see if I can remember how to play this one. It starts out to Lakshmi, but then we'll work Saraswati in. Let's see how I do that. There it is. Okay, here we go. Om Shri Lakshmi Aye Namaha. Om Shri Lakshmi Aye Namaha. Om Shri Lakshmi Aye Namaha. Om Shri
Wow. Thank you.
My pleasure. That was fun. I haven't played that in a while. You pulled one out of the hat that I was like, oh. Yeah.
It was perfect.
Saraswati. That's why we're here.
Can you tell us the words?
Right. So we start, that is just seed sounds of Lakshmi and Saraswati. So the first part I sing Om Shrim Lakshmi Aye Namaha. Aye is sort of like, yeah, Jai, let's go. Namaha, I bow, I surrender. I offer my respect to this energy. Lakshmi is, abundance and beauty, and abundance as it comes into our life in so many ways, right? Not just financially, but everything, love and beauty and friendships and experience and you name it. And then the second half, I do the same for Saraswati. Om Aim Saraswatiye Namaha. So Om, and then Aim is the seed sound for Saraswati, learning and music and art and beauty as well to a certain extent. And then again, I bow, I offer my respect.
Beautiful, beautiful. It's a perfect example of the doing first and understanding later experience.
Sound is powerful, yeah.
I'm curious what else you might feel called to share with us today. Journey of life and music and sound as helpful practices.
Well, singing every day is a really great deal to make with yourself. It can be in the shower or driving, those count. When you start to do it as something that you do just while you're doing that, some things start to shift, right? I think I practiced when I first started studying Indian classical music. I think I practiced while doing other things for a long time, whether I was, cooking or, I don't know. And then the step to actually just doing that, oh, that was a big step. But as a beginning thing, making a deal with yourself to sing even for 5 minutes or making sound, you can call it whatever you want, oming, humming is awesome, Some days you wake up in the morning and the voice is just not ready to sing or just doesn't feel like it's there that day. And humming is such a beautiful, healing, vibrational practice. So, yeah, I think giving ourselves permission to do that. And for a lot of people, that means finding a space to yourself. That's why the shower and the car are really great examples in the beginning, because I know I had a thing about, well, but who's here? Or, I'm in an apartment and, whatever. So, giving ourselves permission, maybe finding a place. Outside is awesome. Nature totally appreciates and comes around when you start to sing. And especially if you have a drone, it's like Snow White. All of the birds will come around. I'm not kidding. It happens every time. So finding a place and committing to making some sound, I think, is a really wonderful way to start if people are curious. Like, ooh, how do I integrate some of this? And just being open to what you notice when you do that without expectation and totally without judgment. Those are the prerequisites for that kind of practice.
Wow. I love that invitation. I've never conceptually embraced my music practice vocally that way, where I'm going to go in nature and just sit down and see what wants to come through. Totally unattached. What a beautiful invitation. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. And you can use the nature as like the tip off. Like you can hum to the sound of the stream, or, copy what the birds are doing. Or, if you can't, a lot of times it's like, well, I can't think of anything, hum, make it really simple. But if you need inspiration, listen around you. And there's always something, ambient, the sound of the wind in the trees.
I do, and I love it. Well, tell us some more of what you've got on offer these days. Where can people keep connecting with you and go deeper with this beautiful practice?
Sure, yeah. My website's always a good place to start, openheartkirtan.com. Or you can also get there by my name, kavitakatmacmillan.com. And biggest thing on offer is that my album is going to be out. So there's information about that on the website. I'm doing a really fun workshop that is recurring, which is a Chant and Learn the Hanuman Chalisa workshop, Tuesday evenings at 5. We're in the third round of it. It's a 13-week workshop because we take this beautiful 40-verse song and divide it into chunks, 12 chunks. And the 13th week, we have a Chalisa party and we all kind of share and pass the Zoom screen around. That's awesome. I can't more highly recommend if you want to tackle something that you never thought you could do. It's a fantastic path of surrender and letting go is taking on the Chalisa and entering into that practice. Whether you learn it or not, it's awesome. So that's happening on Tuesday nights, and I'll probably do another one when this one is up. We're on week 6 right now, but it's always fine to jump in. And that's it. I have an intro to harmonium coming up. I'm doing those online, so every other month there's either an intro or a next step. And the next step is just everybody who's taken the intro. You know, we learn chants and we share, and we talk about rhythm, and we build confidence and finger patterns, and we do all kinds of stuff. And the intro class is really great because we do what you and I did. We find your pitch. We simplify the hand position, so that's really straightforward, so that we get out of our head and we really just can kind of drop into the connection between the fundamental tone and the voice, and start to make space for the chant practice to come through us. So there's all of that, yeah, and that's all on the website. I have a Patreon channel that has, you know, all kinds of lessons and video inspiration, stuff like that. So a lot of people learn through that portal, and then a lot of people get in touch, and I do privates also as well. So it would be wonderful to, see some of your listeners.
Wonderful. Definitely check out Kat's pages, join her Patreon, sign up for a workshop. You won't regret it. And thank you so much for your time and for sharing your practice and your life experience. It's very valuable to both myself and our listeners to live healthier and happier lives. So deep gratitude.
Yeah, and for you too, Joshua. So beautiful to see all of the things you're expanding into. Always great to connect.
And be sure to sign up for the Embodied Sounds podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, listen to us on Spotify. We'll see you real soon. Thanks so much. Please consider joining our Patreon community. Learn more at www.embodiedsounds.com.